Okay. And so I have the record setting set. But yeah. Looks like people are starting to join the call, Roxanne.
Sounds good. All right, well, I guess as folks are continuing to log on, we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for attending. I also want to thank our panelists for being here. My name is Roxanne, and I am a project manager for DRA. I'm also your point person for the Storefront Revitalization Grant. Today, we will be reviewing the grant, answering questions, and sharing examples from some of our favorite downtown Raleigh establishments on successful ways to pivot. So if you have any questions, we're going to review the grant information, but if you have any questions along the way during the presentation, feel free to pop them into the Q&A feature, and we'll try to address as many questions as we can as we go and leave some time at the end as well. All right, let's get started. So first slide, the Storefront Revitalization Grant. It's designed to help businesses impacted by COVID. We want you to be able to pivot and adjust your business model to keep your team safe and to better serve your guests. The goal of the grant is to help you make changes to your storefront, dining area, website to set your business up for long-term success. The pivot grant proposals will be awarded up to $5,000. We also want to help businesses with repair costs. So any damages incurred in the recent months, those repair grant proposals will be awarded up to $2,500. And you can apply for both. So businesses can include both pivot and repair components in your application, but the combined grant will not exceed $5,000. So awards will be granted based on your proposed budget submitted in the application and to the availability of funds. So on your application, you want to be as detailed as possible with all of your line item expenses necessary to execute your proposal. And for reimbursement, you also want to make sure that all those expenses are thoroughly documented. And then for our next slide, you'll see here, lots of businesses have already pivoted, and this grant wants to reimburse you for expenses already incurred. Many of you, including all of our panelists here, have made significant repairs and improvements to your business in order to stay operational. DRA recognizes that and wants to reimburse you for those expenses. So expenses can date back as far as May 30th, 2020. And we want to make sure that those expenses were clearly documented and connect to the goal of the program. Next slide. All right, let's talk about qualifications. So the number one criterion to be considered for the grant is location. You'll see on the map, this is the Downtown Raleigh Alliance map, and eligible businesses will be included in the downtown element boundary, which is the bold outside perimeter, or any of the district boundaries. So those are the colorful districts you see on the map. We're also looking for businesses to be storefront or consumer facing, have been open prior to May 30th, be legally incorporated with a tax ID number, and have 50 employees or fewer. With that said, this grant is meant to be open and accessible to as many businesses as possible. So as a general rule of thumb, if your business is located within the map, then we strongly encourage you to apply. And when applying, consider explaining A, how this grant will help facilitate necessary changes due to the impact of COVID-19, and B, how those changes will be part of the revitalization of downtown Raleigh. As part of the review process, DRA will conduct several rounds of application review with both DRA staff and an independent committee to ensure grants are awarded to proposals that are within the spirit of the grant. All right, next slide. I do want to point out that this is a reimbursement grant. So what that means is that if your proposal is selected, you'll be allocated grant money up to $5,000 based on the estimated cost to execute your proposal. You will be responsible for paying the costs up front. However, once all receipts are submitted and approved, the DRA will write you a reimbursement check for all of those approved expenses. This check will be written no later than 2 weeks after documents have been submitted and approved. Our goal is to get money back in your hands as quickly as possible. And again, to reimburse expenses that date back to the May 30th, as long as they are documented and clearly connected, then they will be reimbursed in that timeline as well. Next slide. So here are some dates to keep in mind as you're building your proposal. Remember that the grant window closes on December 31st. So our goal is to have all grant supported expenses submitted, approved, and reimbursed by December 31st. The application window is open and the deadline to apply is September 28th. And once all the applications are in, I know everyone will be anxious to hear a response. So our goal is to review and notify all applicants the week of October 12th. Okay, next slide. If you have any questions, that's my job. I'm here to answer and help support as you fill out your application. So please don't hesitate to email me or call. I want to be here to help answer any questions during this process. All right, so now that we have reviewed the grant quickly, I want to pass the mic over to our panelists. So we're lucky to have 4 businesses here to share how they've successfully pivoted. Hopefully they can offer some inspiration and guidance as you continue to apply.
Hey, Roxanne, real quick, There's already one question. A business has to be currently closed to be eligible. Is that correct?
No, a business doesn't have to be closed to be eligible. So if your business is open and operating, then you can apply for the grant. If your business is closed, then you can still apply for the grant. I hope that answered the question. All right, so next slide, starting off, we have Lewis here with Bittersweet. Lewis is the operations manager and took on the project of installing a parklet. Welcome, Lewis. Thanks for being here. So you're very involved in the parklet creation. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the process of building the parklet, the permitting guidelines, and how it impacted your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, actually, the first thing I wanted to do was actually just start off by thanking Mayor Marianne Baldwin and City Council for helping to make a program like this even an option to us. With, you know, so much is obviously going on for business owners, and so, you know, the more options we have, the better, obviously. So, and then also to Bill King and Whitney Schoenfeld for just working tirelessly at the DRA and definitely being my point of contact people for getting me through this process and helping me with whatever questions I had. So they do a great job, and I just wanted to say thank you to them. But More specifically, I'm going to talk about, a parklet, which is what Bittersweet decided to do. But I wanted to be clear that every business's position is unique. What we've done at Bittersweet might not be the right solution for everyone, but I'm more than happy to walk through the process of how Kim, my partner, and I came to the conclusion that a parklet was the right step for Bittersweet. So, first we had to ask ourselves, is there a way that we could open beyond our to-go window and online ordering that would keep our staff and guests safe? We originally, after March, closed down entirely, but then within, I think, about 3-4 weeks, we reopened to-go service only. We've got a large window that opens right to the street, and then we created an online ordering site attached to our normal website. And so that was the first thing we did. But, it was a great first step, but it certainly wasn't enough for us to even be paying our bills. So that's when, we kind of started asking the questions, okay, what's the next thing that we can do? And then we kind of heard about parklets and whatnot. So, Bittersweet has a very small dining room. And we also know that if masks are removed to eat or drink, then distance and fresh air are the next best protectors from COVID. So we knew we wanted to do something outside in order for mostly just our staff well-being and guest safety. Once outside, we had to choose between placing tables on our sidewalk or in the parking spaces in front of our business. Neither were easy solutions. Our sidewalk is skinny with high traffic lobby entrances on either side of us, a big oak tree and with a grate. And then of course we've got our own entrance and to-go window, which was gonna lead to a very congested flow of people if we were to try and put tables on the sidewalk in the middle of all that. The street, on the other hand, is not very table or chair friendly due to a steep slope running into the gutters for drainage, but it certainly offered more room and a better working flow. So I took some measurements and figured out how many tables I could fit socially distanced inside of the 2 parking spots right in front of us. At this point, I knew I needed to create a small business plan to crunch the numbers of, A, how many seats I could get, B, how many expected turns of those tables and seats through a service could I expect, what my average ticket price was going to be, how the weather was going to play into service since this whole thing is outside. And then of course the big question is how long do I get to use this area that's not technically Bittersweet's property? I feel that this is a really good time to point out that all COVID parklets are temporary. Currently it's stated that we are allowed to keep our parklet until all COVID restrictions on businesses have been lifted, plus a 30-day grace period after that point. So, obviously if you're going to invest money into something and it's temporary, that's probably the biggest factor that kept coming back up to in my mind was, okay, I think I can make this much money off of doing these various things, but nobody knows how long COVID's going to last. And I think originally when we first started down this process, I was naively worried that we were only going to get to keep it for a few weeks or maybe like a month. And now I'm realizing that we're going to have this for a much longer period of time. And so my comfortability with it has greatly increased. But definitely, if you're just starting in this process now, time is something you should consider. So once I ran those numbers, I knew what I felt comfortable spending on building out our parklet and building out a place that was going to be inviting for our guests. Kim and I put together a plan for what we wanted the parklet to look like and function like. And then I contacted a general contractor we had worked with before on other projects that we've built in order to get a price. The first price was not the price we wound up going with, but but you got to start somewhere and get even a general idea of what these things are going to cost. So I know that everyone's budget and design is going to be different. Some people are going to have more room than others. Some people can afford to spend more money than others. All different types of things are going to be factors. So I can't tell you exactly how much you're going to spend on building out a parklet yourself, but I can certainly give you a few tips on how to decrease cost if some of your initial estimates come back a little higher than you wish to spend. The first and biggest is look around and see what you've already got to work with, around your business or at home or wherever you can find a resource. For us, I already had chairs and tables that we had used. Sorry, excuse me. I already had chairs and tables that we had used years and years ago and had just been kind of sitting around gathering dust. And so I was like, okay, that's something I don't have to worry about paying for. That's something we can incorporate into the design and, get that free. The other thing that Bittersweet already had was a portable POS system, which has been crucial to taking orders and cashing people out at the parklet. Having even those few small things really helped save us money in design and build. The second thing is ask your community and your staff for help in building this thing out. There's certain things that you're going to want licensed professionals to do, but there are other things that certainly your staff or community can help with. Painting, if you're gonna choose to paint something. For us, we had the contractors build out a level platform, and then a couple guys on staff and myself actually were the ones to put up the railings and put some planters in place. And I've actually, I've got contact information for a few people that I worked with. So if anybody wants that at the end, I'm more than happy to give that out. Plants make everything more beautiful. So if you can incorporate, real live things, as you can see from our picture, we've got some really large plants out there. And, I think they were not, we originally had thought about building a bench along the whole wall area. And that was going to be A, too expensive, and B, it didn't really provide the feel that we wanted. Whereas once we put the plants in there, it was significantly less expensive. And B, we felt like just kind of warmed it up and made it more inviting to guests. So, and then of course, the last thing, or the last tip I've got for you right now is, use the internet to search for creative parklet designs. The one thing that we know is the whole world is going through COVID. And Raleigh is not the only city that's trying to build parklets and come up with creative ideas on things to do. So, I'm a big fan of crowdsourcing. There's always people that are smarter than me and better than me at doing things, and I have no problem with copying those people. So, and I don't think you should either during a pandemic. So, the most valuable thing you have is time. So I want to recommend that you are sure to read through all of the rules that go along with installing your parklet. All the rules are on raleighnc.gov. They've got a link and an established page. It's very clear list format. I'm I'm not going to be able to do a better job than that. So I would just say, go to raleighnc.gov and follow the link. You know, if you need to get a landlord's permission or additional insurance for extending onto a piece of property that's not yours, I would start with that, because that might take a week or two to get that information back from either your landlord or your insurance agent. And there's no need for unnecessary delays when you're applying for your permit. Assuming that you're building a parklet while simultaneously running your business on a daily basis, like Kim and I were, then I think 6 to 10 weeks should be an expected time frame for starting your design to actually having a customer, you know, using your space. Of course, after it's all done and you start to work it, all of the little quirks will pop up and need to be ironed out. But as business owners, we are all familiar with the quirks popping up and having to solve things on our feet. So those were most of the steps that I felt were like the most important to point out in this process.
Thanks for pointing out the timeline, because that was going to be one of my questions, is how long do you think people should anticipate until having the parklet up and running? And I'm assuming that since the parklet's been up, you guys have seen a positive impact in business. Yes. Yeah. I
think success is going to look different for everyone else, for everyone. I mean, you know, look, no doubt about it, our numbers are still dramatically down. And, you know, I don't think any one thing is going to solve any business owners' problems. And I want to be really clear about that, you know, even beyond this, we're going to have to continue to be creative. I mean, for us, I'm happy not to be going into debt anymore. You know, like the parklet is allowing us to tread water, to pay the bills that we have, and to not continue to go further in debt. So, you know, it buys us time. It's not the end all be all. I'm not going to just run the parklet and that's it. You know, it's not as successful as Bittersweet, but it's certainly a wonderful help.
Good. And for those of you interested in a parklet option, the DRA does have a great comprehensive blog post under the Voices tab that covers different options, but also resources for parklets and things of that nature. Okay, well, thank you, Louis, for sharing your experience with Bittersweet and with the parklet. We did have some questions pop up in terms of things that the grant will or will not cover, one of which being the expenses for a website. So building a website or changing and modifying your website, any sort of developer that you need to hire or consultant, those expenses are covered. They just need to be clearly documented as a direct tie-in to your pivot proposal. And then regarding parklets, has there been anything from the city about putting enclosed shelter tents with plastic walls for these? Will would be a great person to ask this question.
Sure, I'll take this one. No, there has not been anything specific from the city regarding, you know, tents or shelters as a part of the parklets. If you are providing any type of structure like that, it does bring in fire code. So it becomes a little bit more complex, but you're happy to discuss that with you, work through the process with the city. You know, I think there could be a solution there, but it would need to be a little bit, you know, felt out. So.
Thank you. And then we had another question come through in terms of like wish list items that if you are a business applying for the grant, I definitely recommend documenting as much of your wish list and detailed line items that you would like to be covered in the grant. In terms of buying things ahead of receiving or the awards notification, that is, I think, up to each individual business of comfort level, because we want to be able to offer funds to as many people as possible, but I would hate for a business to buy a large purchase and then not be able to be reimbursed in full for it. So those are some great questions, and keep them coming as we continue on. Next, we have Sam Ratto. Sam is going to discuss the takeout window, but I'm not sure if if we've got Sam connected at the moment. So for those of you who have visited Videri in the recent months, there is this beautiful takeout window. It was installed within an existing window, which made the install somewhat easier, but still a pretty involved process. And Sam is on.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Oh, there we go. Hey, Sam.
Hooray!
Good morning.
Good morning.
So thanks for being here. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the takeout window process, install, and how it's going?
Yes, indeed. I would also like to echo Lewis's statements about thanking DRA and City Council and everyone involved for recognizing the dire situation that our businesses are in and trying to figure out small ways to help us, even a thing like this, and promoting what we're doing and how we're doing it and giving us a format and a platform is amazing. So I appreciate everyone involved. To pivot to the fun of a soft serve window in a time of pandemic is a bright light, and I get to see the picture of me in Salem with our masks on serving customers is just such a sweet thing. I'll give a pretty quick overview of how we got here. In May of this year, I was sitting in the parking lot, not having the best day of my life. And I looked at the series of windows and I was like, is this window tall enough for me to stand up to and order something from? And then when I went inside and saw that I could sit inside the window and take somebody's order, I was like, maybe we can do something here. And it kind of, I would say, rolled downhill from there in a good way. I got in contact with Carl Holyfield from NC State's Howling Cow Creamery. They had a machine and knowledge and the soft serve mix, and we were able to work with them on that. Fred Belladin from Clearscapes Architecture Firm and Brian from Rebuild came out one day, and they're the ones that created this pickup window and order window. I had another idea that was, in hindsight, garbage compared to this. So without those two and their quick thinking and knowledge of like how to build something that my landlord would approve. One of the big things about our landlord is they wouldn't approve anything that's a permanent structure. So the pickup window you see here, they just took out the existing lower windows, and Brian made a new window, and the counter material there essentially is a little L that sits on the frame of the building. And so when this is all over, we can take that off, put the windows back on, and it's good to go. All of the visual marketing you see here was done by Bob and Kat from Baldwin and Marketing Firm, and Design Firm, which is 2 doors away from us. Bob came out on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and by Thursday the next day, he had all this done. And so it happened really fast, and it's been good. It hasn't saved our business, just like Lewis said. It's not gonna, this doesn't enable us to like start buying new machinery or do things differently in how we're trying to expand. But what it does do is it gives us two things. We get to engage with our community again, and we get to start making fun toppings where we get to make toffee and chocolate fudge sauce and caramel sauce and maple granola and all these different neat things that that we get to make now. And it's been really impressive. But I would say the hardest thing for us to do was try and get people to come back downtown. And I think a concerted effort by business owners, DRA, and maybe even the GRCVB and NC Tourism can give us a little bit more push about what it's like to walk around downtown in the daytime and the nighttime, and show all of these different businesses that are doing different things to have people walk around. And then just a nudge to get people to take the boards off their windows would be amazing for all of us. And if they can, I mean, some windows are still broken, but if your windows aren't broken, it would be great if you took your boards down. this is the hardest thing that's ever going to happen to the entire world. And I think all of us that are going through this and trying to pivot are showing that even in the toughest times, you can still do interesting and creative things. And then you can still raise money for causes you want to raise money for, and engage in a community that we love. So I may have missed something there, but I tried to be concise because I know there's other people. Did I do well?
Yes, thanks, Sam.
Cool.
Awesome.
Are there any
Well,
questions or follow-up or anything like that?
well, hopefully the grant can also help folks who haven't been able to take those boards down. Hopefully the grant, by applying for the grant, you can have the funds and resources to repair any damage and help get those boards down. So
Great.
well, next we have Sunny here with Adara Spa. Sunny, I know that you made a lot of changes, especially being a spa, which is in general like a pretty intimate setting, but you've made some really positive changes and have seen a lot of really great reviews, and as a result. Can you give us an overview of the different types of changes that you've made?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. And as everyone said, thank you so much. I want to just say to everyone, I would encourage you to get plugged into DRA, to the city's website. There's great information out there, and you don't know what you don't know. So the best way to get plugged in is to start following either on their social media or getting on their mailing list, because the information and the networking right now, I think, is what's helping a lot of businesses survive. Just talking to other business owners and figuring out what's out there. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. Adara Spa is located right on the outskirts of Glenwood South. And it has been challenging because, like you said, Roxanne, it is a very intimate type of setting. When we're with clients, we can't have the social distancing. It's not possible. It is possible to have social distancing between clients, but not between the technician and the client. So back in March, I started trying to figure out how are we going to reopen, because we were closed for 2 months with no income at all. So my first thing that I did was to order and things to make the spa touchless. So I ordered touchless soap dispensers, paper towel holders, checkout stations. I also ordered acrylic shelves so that when someone's getting a facial, there's going to be a layer of protection between them and the technician. I also ordered masks so that if you have a situation where someone comes in and they don't have a mask, I can offer that to them. As a result of the potential protests and riots near us, we ended up having to put up boards, and I totally get what the gentleman before me was saying about the boards being uninviting. And I have proposed that perhaps the city will look at offering some kind of service that will help people take the boards down and put them up if they have to enforce a curfew. Because what happens is I did not put up boards the second time around because it was too labor intensive, it was expensive, it was exhausting, and I couldn't do that around two. So I'm sure for some business owners that may be part of the reason they haven't taken their boards down. But if there was a way, when we know there's going to be a curfew, if there was an opportunity to have someone who would come help with those expenses or that labor, more businesses might be willing to take the boards down until they feel it's needed again. What I've realized more than anything is if the technicians don't feel safe and comfortable, I don't care how much you say open your doors, people aren't going to come. So the first layer of protection is that I had to make sure that the people who work at Adara Spa felt comfortable, knew that I was taking every step to keep them safe and to keep clients safe. And once they felt that safety measure, then they did not mind sharing with their clients, come in, we're safe, we're taking precautions, because we do get a lot of calls from clients asking, what are you doing to make sure I'm safe? How do I know that there's not going to be a room full of people? And it is expensive, and it is an expensive proposition. like I'm sure every other business person on this call, we have not made up for the losses that we have endured since the situation. And we're just trying to make it through, prayerfully, till things do get to a new adjusted normal.
Well, thank you. I know that you've gotten a lot of really great reviews as a result of all of the measures that you're taking. So clearly your guests feel very safe and very happy with their experience.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have Louis here. Thank you, Louis, for being here. And Short Walk Wines has been open downtown throughout it all, but I know that you guys have done some significant adjustments and pivots, one being a successful marketing campaign. Do you mind walking us through the different changes you guys have experienced?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. And again, I'll reiterate the thanks to the DRA for creating awareness of the businesses downtown and giving us a platform to speak. Also, I'd be remiss. It's very rare that I get on the same panel with another Louis, so you gotta enjoy that. So, you know, when we think about our shop before COVID had a tasting bar in it, and about 20% of our sales were coming from by the glass. So as soon as COVID hit, we realized we were going to have to change the model, and we're not going to be serving by the glass. So we approached it from an aspect of what do we do well, and how can we get that message out? And when we looked at marketing, we looked at basically three things. What is the message that we need to get out? How are we going to get it out? And then who should be hearing it? Pre-COVID, our target market, our customer base was essentially made up of people who live downtown and people who work downtown. As soon as people went home to work, we lost all of the people that work downtown, or a large portion of the people that work downtown that don't live downtown. So we needed to figure out how do we reach them. And we started with a couple of different things. Our message first was, we're still open. That was the biggest thing, to make sure people realize that we're still here. We still want to sell you wine. We want you to enjoy it. And that it was safe, that we were going to take all the precautions necessary for our staff and any customers that came to get wine, and ways that we could do that. And so the next approach was, how do we get the message out? We already had a really significant presence on social media. Instagram and Facebook were our most common and successful models of getting our message out pre and post COVID. And we also had an email marketing campaign that we send out every week with content that is relevant to our customer. So tasting strategies or new bottles, but things that people wanted to see, and that we were measuring what they were clicking on, and that we were providing that valuable content. One thing that really did change for us was we started implementing a texting strategy. We use a company called Canary Text. It's actually a local company founded and formed by a Downtown Raleigh company. And using the texting method to give quick snippets of opportunities from Short Walk. And we immediately saw awesome results from that. So we started selling in packs, for example, different wines. I believe the first one was a grilling pack, so wines that go great with whatever you're grilling. I think that was the first one. And sent the message out through Slack from our previous customer base information, and immediately sold out those packs within an hour, which represented almost 2 days worth of sales on a previous traditional day. So we realized that this was a really cool method to connect with people in almost a more intimate setting, because it made it real, right? It's not just some corporate text. There's a real person on the other side of this that we're talking that we can talk back and forth with. And it turned into conversations, which was pretty cool, where people were just texting back and forth. At that point, I was managing those texts, so we could answer questions immediately for customers, and it felt like they were in the shop. We've since continually used the text message, Instagram, Facebook, and then the email campaigns to continue that message and to show people that it's safe to get back downtown, come by the shop. And although our model has changed where you can't come in and buy a glass of wine anymore, we can absolutely meet you at the door and create that personal shopping experience for you, to provide those unique small batch wines that are available in Short Walk.
That's great. Did you say that the company was called Canary Text?
Yes, Canary Text.
Canary Text. I'm sure a lot of folks will want to look into that. I'm glad that that was so successful for you guys. And in terms of foot traffic, are you seeing an increase in foot traffic downtown? Or is it still pretty low?
Yeah, it's still low for sure, but it's increasing. I reiterate Sam and Sunny's point. I know Lewis agrees too. Like the more boards we get off the windows, the more inviting it becomes for people to come downtown. There's several safe locations. Bittersweet's a great example of a place where you can safely socially distance, still enjoy the opportunities and restaurants that are downtown. But we need to let people know that if you live downtown or work downtown, we're seeing it every day. But that's still a small portion of what our customer base was before. So we need to make sure that message is getting out to the people outside of those districts that you outlined earlier around the grant.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all the panelists sharing your experience and how you've pivoted and adjusted during these difficult times. We just want to reiterate that the goal of this grant is to reach as many of your businesses as possible. So please spread the word. We want you to apply and reach out to me with any questions that you have along the way. We have one more Q&A that just came through, and it is, let's see here, the businesses that are currently closed. So if your shop has the ability to reopen, then you are able to apply for the grant. And regardless, if you are within the boundaries of the map, we encourage you to apply for the grant and to be able to make a case for how you're going to pivot and adjust, as well as contribute to the revitalization of downtown. Then we just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're encouraging you all to apply. So if your business had to close temporarily, we totally understand a lot of businesses did have to close temporarily, but that does not mean that you are ineligible for the grant. We had another question come through about reimbursement or one-to-one. This is 100% a reimbursement grant. So if your proposal is approved, you'll be awarded a certain dollar amount, and then all expenses will be submitted and approved that are in line with your proposal and reimbursed 100%. So it is not a one-to-one spend, it is a full reimbursement. Does anyone else have any questions that are coming through or for the panelists in regards to how they have pivoted? Is there anything else that we want to add?
Roxanne, I dropped the canarytext.com website in our panelist chat, so I don't know if you can share that with any of the attendees as well.
Perfect, thank you. Let's see. Here we go. So Will or David, you might have some more experience with the Zoom webinars. If you could drop this in on the screen, that would be super helpful. Otherwise, we're happy. This recording will be posted, and we're happy to add that link as well to the post afterwards. So
okay, I figured out how to do it. I dropped it in. Everybody can see it.
Okay, thank you. We have another question that came through. Can the grant be used for expenses already incurred? And the answer is yes. So any expense dating back to May 30th is eligible for the reimbursement grant, as long as you can connect it to the goal of the grant, which is to pivot, adjust, repair, and revitalize downtown. So definitely include those proposals in the application. And as always, you can sign up for DRA's newsletters and follow us on social media. The grant information is located on the DRA's website. There is a link in the homepage banner, so it is easy access. Click the link in the banner. It has information about the grant, a link to apply. And again, it has all of my contact information. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We want to be accessible and as helpful as possible through this process. So if we don't have any other questions, then again, I want to thank the panelists for taking some time to share with us. And I want to thank you all for attending. I hope this was helpful. And thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
I guess that was